There we go. Let's do it. All right. Do you have a lighter?
I do.
Ooh, it's got kind of like a sweet flavor.
Yeah. So these I thought you might like because it has a sugar cane dipped tip. So even if you don't really like the taste of a cigar, you have like a nice sweet like taste while you're doing it. But I think you'll like it. It's a good flavored cigar. So
well, this is definitely a first. Oh, and look at that. Wow, look at that lighter. That's like tactical.
It's the real deal. All right, just give it a pull. Oh, I'm kind of low on these. Yeah, we're low on fluid, but we'll get it going. Nice.
Wow, man, that lighter is serious business.
It's hard to do this with a selfie stick.
You look like you know what you're doing.
Mm. Oh yeah.
Yes.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do this. All right.
You lead the way.
Man, that is a nice flavor. Wow. Well,
yeah, the taste of the cigar changes through the course of the smoke. So you'll detect like a little bit of like sweetness, and then it'll start to get a little cedary, you know, some almond flavors in there. It's just kind of like evolves as you smoke it.
Wow. I have to tell you that I have never smoked a cigar at 11 o'clock in the morning.
I tend to do it in the daytime. I have two small kids.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, so like, there's no like, it takes like an hour and a half to smoke a regular sized cigar, maybe more for larger ones. And like, I don't have a lot of evenings I can just go hide somewhere and smoke a cigar. I'm usually putting the kids to bed. So I find that I'm smoking these things in the daytime while I'm working. I'll go to the top of my roof at my house. Yeah, I have like a little roof deck situation. I'll bring my laptop up there and just start working.
Oh, I love that. You know, cigars for me are very evocative because my dad and I smoked cigars together.
Yeah.
And it would always be when my parents split when I was 14. And here, let's go this way.
Yeah.
And I didn't see my dad that often, but when I did, we would smoke cigars, and I would call it espresso parenting because we would have these sort of like concentrated, very deep talks, you know, like once a month or so.
Wow.
And
wow, that's so formative.
Yeah, totally.
And cigars, you know, probably for better or worse, probably for worse, are so associated with like masculinity.
Right.
So here you are, you're trying to connect with your dad. You have these very masculine things in your hands.
Yep. And they force you to sit there.
Yeah.
Right. So like we would have that, you know, hour and a half or whatever it was. And I remember he'd get these big CAOs. Do you know that brand?
Yeah.
He would get them from the cigar store, and they kind of look like that other one that you had in your box there that, you know.
Like a Churchill.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
just like a big
took
Winston
like
Churchill type of thing.
Exactly. Like took a long time to smoke. And so anytime I have a cigar or like smell it, I always think like, you know, about having a deep conversation.
That's great. Well, we're here to do that.
Exactly.
It's a good scene setter for us.
On your left.
You're listening to Doc Walks with Ben and Keith.
So, why are we smoking cigars? Why are we walking? Who am I walking with? I'm here with David Alvarado, a documentary filmmaker, a Texan, now living in Brooklyn.
That's right.
Who primarily makes docs that have a scientific bent. But you're here with your new film that is opening Cine Las Américas tonight here in Austin.
Yeah.
About Luis Valdez.
That's right.
Right? How am I doing so far?
You've nailed it all.
I'm doing it, all right. And the film's called American Pachuco, and you take it from here. Tell me, or tell our audience what the film's about.
So American Pachuco is about Luis Valdez, who most people don't know. You know, it's not a household name. I've made films about people like Bill Nye, the science guy. Like, lots of people in the U.S. know exactly who Bill is. They get excited. They go, Bill, Bill, Bill. You know,
right.
Talk about his bow tie.
Stewart Brand from the Whole Earth catalog.
If you were like from the hippie generation or the Back to Land movement, you know exactly who that is. You know, it's somebody who created the Whole Earth catalog, has shaped, you know, the way that Silicon Valley thinks about technology and the environment. So he's, you know, a much more known figure. But Luis Valdez It's known very well like in the Latino community, Chicano community. You know, everybody that I meet are like, "Oh my God, Luis Valdez, what's he like in person?" But broader America doesn't really know who he is, and I think they should. So I decided to make this film. His most famous project is La Bamba.
Yeah.
Did you see La Bamba when you were a kid?
Not only did I see it, that's one of those things, kind of like a cigar that is kind of evocative, you know.
Yeah.
And I watched your documentary last night,
Right.
and when the La Bamba section comes up, I was like, oh yeah. Like, not only did I see that movie, but I probably saw it when I was like, what year did it come out?
89.
89. Okay, so I would have been 12 years old.
Yeah.
And I didn't only see it once. I probably watched that movie, I don't know, 15 or 20 times.
And what drew
you know?
you to it?
I think that was like, you know, when I was kind of coming online about like how important stories are, and, you know, getting like interested in movies beyond just, you know, sitting down to watch a show kind of thing, like thinking about who the actors were and, you know, the music in it. And I think it was just like exciting. It was one of those movies for me that it was kind of one of the first times I remember being like really excited about a movie.
That's incredible.
And then, you know, Lou Diamond Phillips goes on to like being
That's his
young
discovery
guns
vehicle,
and-
you know? I mean,
Yeah.
it just really was like an incredible moment to find that actor.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah. So, anyways, I love that portion, and I had no idea the backstory about the creator and how he is sort of like the playwright who then goes on to be a film director and screenwriter for the Chicano community.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and just like you, I mean, I love that movie. Even when I was watching it, my sister and I, you know, we were two little Latino kids in white suburban Dallas, you know, and like when we saw it, we saw ourselves. We were like, oh my God, like this is incredible. This is a movie about like a small Chicano family who were farm workers, and one of them actually achieves the American dream, right?
Yeah.
Fame and glory, a sense of belonging, that like this little kid could be, you know, as cool as some of the rock stars of his time.
Right. Right.
So, you know, it meant a lot to us for that reason too. And I just never knew the name Luis Valdez, even then, right? Like,
Right.
You know, always, especially as a kid, look at the director. But then when I was in college, he came to our school. I won this thing like the Hispanic Scholarship Fund Award. And then he came and he told his whole life story, like on a podium to us, the students.
Wow.
And I was like blown away. I was like, wait a minute. The guy that did La Bamba, not only did he do La Bamba, but he was the first Chicano, first Mexican American to make a feature production on Broadway. It's called Zoot Suit.
Yep.
This was a major hit in Los Angeles.
Starring Edward James Olmos.
He also discovered Edward James Olmos in Zoot Suit. So in Los Angeles, Zoot Suit just broke records for a theatrical production in Los Angeles. All the Latino community in Southern California came from around the world really to come see this production, and then he took it on to Broadway. But then even before that, he was working in the grape fields with Dolores Huerta during the grape strikes, using theater as a tool for change. I mean, they would take non-actors on the back of a flatbed truck
Yeah.
and just dump them out into a field and be like, hey, like, have you guys thought about fairness in the workplace? Like, how come these people aren't providing safe conditions? How come they can't guarantee wages?
Wow.
And they would do this in these like little actos, these skits.
Yeah.
And that would get people to join the strike, or at least get them to stay in the strike because it's hard, you know, to not work for months on end. So, you know, he's had this incredible career of making theater and film, the storytelling of this version of America. So I was blown away by it.
Unbelievable. And so you meet him when you're a college student.
Yeah. I was a part of this organization called Texas Filmmakers.
Yeah.
And so I even invited him to show some of his work.
And this is, where are you in college here?
This is University of North Texas.
North Texas in Denton. Okay. And you grew up in Dallas, you said.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And which part of Dallas were you in?
I was born in Oak Cliff. It's the first memories were in Oak Cliff, Dallas. Then we moved to Cedar Hill, then DeSoto, and then we started going into like Grapevine and Euless.
Wow. Okay. So Dallas through and through. And then do you go straight to UNT to study filmmaking, or how do you?
No, actually I dropped out of high school when I was like 17. I was like
Wow.
one of these troubled kids that would always get in trouble. I'd get suspended. I maybe went to 3 or 4 different schools around the area, but then the week I turned 17 is, you know, I was able to just legally myself drop out, so I did.
Wow, you seem like such a nice, well-adjusted guy. Like, what were you doing at 17 that was
I don't know what I was
difficult?
doing. I was hanging out with the punk rockers and the foreign kids, and I didn't fit in, I think is what it was, to be honest with you. Yeah.
So you were like basically discovering that you were kind of an art kid.
Definitely. I knew I always wanted to be creative.
Yeah.
Maybe a writer or something, but you know, didn't have a lot of examples of people who I could look up to.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. I just kind of. I'm also I'm rebellious. I'm like interested in things. I don't want to be told what to do. I want to like do my own version of it. You know.
This makes these are all the ingredients for an independent documentarian here.
Exactly.
I feel like I had a very similar upbringing in suburban Oklahoma City.
Oh, wow, Oklahoma City, nice.
Yeah. So anyways, but back to you. So you drop out of high school.
Yeah, drop out of high school.
How do you get to UNT?
So I start just fucking around for like a year, doing nothing, you know, terrible jobs or selling weed, that kind of thing. And then by the time I turned 18, I'm like, man, this kind of sucks. You know? Like,
right.
And my punk rock friends are, you know, having even a harder time. I mean, like some of these kids are getting on heroin and things, and it wasn't looking good.
Right.
So I was just, and I went in and out of jail for like alcohol consumption, you know, like as in like I had a minor in possession of alcohol.
Right, right. And you're still in Dallas at this time?
I guess at that point, yeah, Dallas. Okay. And then I moved with an uncle in Irving, and I went to a movie theater, and I watched this film called Punch Drunk Love.
Oh, my favorite PTA movie.
Yeah, it's so good. I mean, like I can't, you know. I mean, I should write more on what that film did for me, but I mean, the bare bones version of it is, it was about this guy who was like ambitious and intelligent, but had trouble connecting with the world. And like I connected with the character like that.
Yeah.
But then it was done in this like magical, realist way that like just like blew me away from like the first 2 minutes. I was just like, what am I watching? Like,
yes, the transitions too, with the beautiful painters, like paint swatches that come in and out, and
the vulnerability of the character, and like, you know, just everything was just stunning to me. And
I've gotta love Mattress Man. It makes me stronger than you could ever imagine.
Yeah, and then he finds strength, you know, through love. Like in some ways, it's like a typical story, but told in a very atypical way.
Yeah,
and so it just woke me up. I was like, oh my God, like movies are like can be about real things. Like this is incredible.
Right.
And so from that moment,
I love that expression. It woke me up.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Even though cinema is supposed to be like a dream, right? You're supposed to be having a 90-minute dream, but really what it was just me like kind of shaking myself awake and going, holy shit, you can like say things through this medium.
Right.
And it's incredible. And so basically from that moment on, I was like, maybe I should be a filmmaker. And so I went to this community college in Irving, North Lake Community College.
Yeah.
I just started taking core classes, you know, my whole life. Now, part of why I dropped out is because I did very poorly in school in terms of grades and things.
Right.
But because I could direct my own education, I think a little bit more, I could select the classes I wanted, I can do things on my own schedule, you know. Then we got on my case if I didn't show up for a class. I just got really good. Like for the first time ever, I made straight A's all through that for those first 2 semesters at North Lake Community College. And then my grades were so good, I just went on to apply to UNT. I got in there. I continued making straight A's. I focused my attention entirely on filmmaking. I've basically been doing it ever since.
Wow. Man, what an origin story. That's incredible. Okay, so you're at UNT. Yeah. What is it about documentary? Because you're saying that you get turned on by a narrative. So when did the documentary bug bite you?
So I even took like acting classes. I was like, oh, to be a director, I got to know how actors think. You know, I was in this production in North Lake Community College. You know, as an actor, like one of the lead actors, they gave me this part. And then by the time I get to UNT, I'm still thinking I'll do fiction. But then I take a class by this guy named Ben Levin.
Okay.
He's a documentary professor there. He won an Academy Award for a short film way back in the day. But he's a great filmmaker, and he has this class on cinéma-vérité. I'm like, I'll check that out. So I watched this film called A Time for Burning. Do you know this, Doc?
I don't. A Time for Burning?
Time for Burning. It's a 19, I I want to say like 63 or so.
Okay.
It won Academy Award for Best Documentary that year. So we're talking early 60s. It was, this is like in the Drew Associates era where people are just figuring out you can put a camera on your shoulder. There could be another guy with a microphone. You can go into the world and film real stuff.
So this is around the time of like Primary, where Robert Drew is filming for Time Magazine 100%. With the Maisels brothers, and
you got it. And so it's about this minister who has to, because of integration laws, they have to. He's at a Lutheran church, and he's sent in to go and integrate their Lutheran church, a white Lutheran church with a black Lutheran church. They have to come together. And so it's his job to convince the white congregation, this will be great.
Wow, and this is in 1963?
1963.
Oh boy.
And of course, like what ensues is, and these guys, I mean, I assume they're all men, the ones filming it were just like in there filming this like congregation trying to come to terms with this like very simple idea. This is just other Lutherans. It's not like it's like, we're going to bring in a bunch of Satanists.
Right.
And
just Lutherans who look a little different than you guys.
Yeah, exactly. And for their own community and everything. And like just to watch this unravel as like the church comes up with every reason why this can't work. They're worried about property values. They're worried about him. Who is this guy? He comes from New York. Everything. And like, I just, by the end of that movie, I was just like, oh shit, you can do the same thing with the real world as you can do with like a scripted film. I mean, and if anything, not that it's better or worse, and there's no one thing to do, but like, it's just as interesting. And I had no idea about that before I saw that film. So, you think about the type of documentaries that you think of are the PBS, Talking Heads, and, here's a picture, we're going to zoom in on it for 10 minutes, that kind of thing.
Right.
That's what I thought of as a documentary, but this kind of blew it wide open for me.
Man, I love that origin story. I have something very similar with Salesman.
Oh yeah.
I saw Salesman and I was like, I didn't understand that there are characters like this out in the real world and you can just like pick up a camera and go follow them.
Yeah.
And I had a very similar awakening to documentary. Yeah.
Well, and you've made a career out of that. It seems like the kinds of people that you look at are so interesting. And people want to see that. Like they want to see real people and like try to understand humanity through like the people on the outliers.
Right.
So I just think that's such a special thing to be able to do.
I heard this Emerson quote early on, or I guess I read it, where he, sort of a long quote, but essentially what he says is the biography of the one foolish person is in its way the history of the entire universe. Right. And I latched onto that as like, the more specific you can get about somebody's story, the more universal it is. It's sort of like everybody's story is like a comment on like the human comedy itself, right? And if you can like make that funny and interesting and find these like really dynamic characters, then basically you're telling stories about what it means to be alive through all these different kind of lenses.
That's so true. That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, that's why we do what we do, I guess. Like trying to understand what this is all about. Absolutely. And this is crazy. You can do that, in a 90-minute, like setting where you have to have a story structure, beginning, middle, and end, and set up the characters and the stakes. Like there's like this real writing to it that I really love. Yeah. So it's like putting together a big puzzle.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love it.
But the ends they're just really fascinating.
You want to pull over here? We can sit in the shade for a minute?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so we should describe for the people who are just listening where we are. So David, tell us what you're seeing here.
I see a field. You see the grass. A bird just flew by. I don't know where we are.
We're in Mabel Davis State Park that is down the street from our production office. And there's about a mile-long running track here that we just walked a portion of. And now we're kind of pulling over to this gazebo that's here in the park to sit in the shade for a minute, enjoy our cigars, and not sweat or pants while we do it. Here, let's just pop up here. Oh, all right. So you've been to Austin before.
I premiered 3 films at South by Southwest.
Okay.
So I've been, when I think of Austin, I think of South by, and like my first feature film was called The Immortalists. I was 29 years old and like I was like, oh, we got to South by, this is so amazing. And it felt so nice to come home to Texas to show my first feature doc.
Yeah.
So.
And what was that one about?
So the Immortals is, I should say, so for my science and technology work, I had this amazing collaborator named Jason Sussberg. We found these structure films, and we tell science and technology stories. Like people at the weird edges of science and tech, basically.
Amazing. And you guys met in grad school, I read.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. And so I guess we skipped ahead here. So you were at UNT. You see, remind me the name of the film again from '63?
A Time for Burning.
A Time for Burning. You see that film. You get turned on to documentaries. Yeah. What happens from there?
So, turn on to documentaries, I instantly just say, okay, documentary is it. And then I start working on them. I mean, I make a couple of short films, like in an extracurricular way, like outside of school, because they don't let you really touch cameras until you get to a certain stage. And so I didn't like that. So I just kind of started work with friends on documentaries. And then I helped co-found this thing called the Texas Filmmakers. It's a 501c3 nonprofit. It still exists today. That is basically provides equipment and exhibition to filmmakers. The founder of that, Joshua Butler, is still up there. He and I created this thing called the Thin Line Film Festival.
Cool. Okay.
It's still in operation today.
And that's in Denton.
That's in Denton.
Okay.
So basically, I start working on. I'm the director of development of this nonprofit. I'm making documentaries on the side, and I'm doing my school. I get through school and I get into an internship. We called it an apprenticeship at KERA Channel 13. That's the Dallas PBS station.
Shout out Dallas PBS.
I love PBS and love KERA. And then, now these people really gave me my first shot to cut my teeth, where they let me, handle professional grade cameras, and I'm doing sort of associate producer work. They're even letting me edit. Back then it was these Avid composer machines that were like hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you had these big hard drive stacks so that you can fit these 25 gigabyte hard drives in there and stuff.
Right.
It sounds like I'm an old timer, and this wasn't that long ago, right? But things move so fast, By the time I got to graduate school, it's 250 gigabytes was the standard massive drive, but I even think now it just seems like that's barely a half a day of shooting.
Oh yeah, you could never get by with it. Yeah, you gotta have a terabyte at least.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just crazy how fast things move. But so then I'm at KERA working. They after my apprenticeship's over, they offer me a job. I start working there professionally.
And so, what's your title? Are you a producer?
I couldn't remember. I was not a producer. I couldn't remember. I'm some kind of I was production specialist or something like that. I can't recall.
But you're shooting, you're editing, you're pitching ideas.
For the field work, because they do field documentaries, I was doing those, shooting and editing. And then also for the studio work, because they have studio shows, I would operate the sound, I would just I'd be a all hands on deck production personnel.
Okay.
And so I'm doing that. And I'm loving it. But I'm also noticing that, at least in terms of PBS, it felt like there was a ceiling, and that ceiling was at least partially set by your education level. And so having just had a undergraduate degree, I was okay, well, maybe I should get a master's. So I start to apply to different master's programs around the country.
Okay.
And then I got into most of them, but the two that I was really interested in was Stanford University has a master's of fine arts in their art and art history department. But then also American University in DC seemed very tempting as well, because there was a lot of documentary production going on in DC. And I saw myself originally as I'm a worker, in the documentary field, so I can climb the ladder. Maybe I can work at Nat Geo or Discovery Channel. At the time, these things all had their headquarters in DC. And so when I was sussing this out, I was well, I'm going to call them and just kind of figure out what they're offering. So I called American University, and they were we'll get you a job. Basically, you're guaranteed a job. You'll get we'll set you up with an internship, and you'll be working at Nat Geo before you can, if you so quick your head will spin. I said, great, that's awesome. And so then I called Stanford, and this incredible professor, was later my professor, Jan Krawitz, was I was hey, they said they can get me a job. Can you guys get me a job? And she was no. No, in fact, most people that come out of here do not go off to get jobs.
I love that she was honest.
Yeah. And I was what are you talking about? And she's yeah, well, what we're training people to do is independent documentary directing.
Yeah.
We're trying to get you to think of yourself as an artist and a creator, that you create your own products and you take them to market yourself. That's what we're training you to do here. And I had never thought about that before. Again, I saw it as there was almost like a khaki. It wasn't strictly true, but it was implied that you should wear khakis at KERA. I was like a khaki mindset, you know, a khaki pants and like a pogo shirt and things. But that kind of shook me up. I was like, oh my God. And then I found out that yes, indeed, like they shoot on film, like on actual celluloid.
At Stanford. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, whoa, like I didn't even know that's a thing, like, and you could do still.
Yeah.
And so I was just really drawn to it. So I decided to go there. It's a 2-year program. Just spent 2 years of my life not doing anything else but just like thinking about documentary directing. How do you direct, at least for the practical limits of a graduate school, really,
right.
How do you direct short docs?
Yeah.
And then once that was up, I just started. And so Jason Sussberg and I met there. He's my year. We came in at the same time, left at the same time.
Awesome.
And the second we left, we were just like, well, how do we get started? And you know, we were friends, but we just, you know, we didn't have the idea until after we graduated, and we were like, well, let's just like make something cool that we like. And so he came up with the idea. He had read that there were these guys that want to live forever. And it's like, what does that mean? You know, and
right.
I love science and technology. I'd been doing science films already in graduate school. He'd been doing science films. So it's natural for us to try to find a science project. And so we just began this about 4-year journey of just figuring out how to actually make a feature documentary and sell it and get it out there. So
yeah.
What the resulting film is called The Immortalists, and it's about 2 scientists, Aubrey de Grey, who has this big, crazy long red beard, and this other guy, Bill Andrews, who have these different approaches to the so-called science of immortality or science of life extension.
And what year are we talking? This is like 2012 or so?
We graduated in 2010, so that's
2010.
October 2010 is really when it got started for us. And then we were premiering at South by Southwest by 2014.
Wow.
March 2014.
Good for you. And man, you know, I feel like the longevity movement with Peter Attia and guys like that, you know, is basically like common vernacular now. Like people are very aware of that.
Oh yeah.
But back then,
it was like
that would have been
just bizarre. Like, what the hell are you talking about?
Right.
And you know, there's been some progress made in that, but not like a ton.
Right.
I just it has become more popular.
Yeah.
For sure.
Wow, that's so cool. All right, so you make your first feature documentary, and then The Immortalists, and it does well, right? It premieres at South by.
It premieres at South by. We sell it. We get a minimum guarantee to do a theatrical run. This company called Gaiam TV bought it. Proved to us for the first time ever, like, oh, like you can actually make a feature film, right? So it was incredible. I mean, because, you know, we were just 2 kids. We raised about maybe $400,000 for it, which,
yeah.
you know, I mean,
that's a fair amount for your first doc.
For your first doc, yeah, it's incredible. And for us as kids, we were still in our 20s. It was like, how could you possibly raise anything more than like $200
right.
for something like this?
Right.
And so it was an early lesson of like how expensive the process was. It gave me a lot of groundwork for how to raise money, how to be willing to ask for money, you know, from investors or donors. And we did a small Kickstarter for $30,000. And but my big takeaway from that was it's unsustainable, even so, because none of that, like some of the 400,000 went to us for sure, but like, you know, you need to pay yourself to do this film, or else you'll never go on to make the second film. Right. So I was like eating ramen noodles and like, you know, crashing with my girlfriend to sublet my apartment so that I could like just focus on this thing and not take extra work. You know, I was a working cinematographer in New York, so I was making money, but none of the money we raised in the film was going towards me, and that just seemed wholly unsustainable.
Yeah.
So we were at Queens College on the campus in Toronto. We were showing the film at Hot Docs.
Oh, shout out Hot Docs. I love that festival.
Yeah, me too. It's been a while since I've been. But we were like, how do we tell films about science, but do it in a way that's sustainable? You know, so that kind of became the question of the day for me and Jason. And you know, it just so happened that this other film came out at the same time, the Big Bird documentary.
Oh yeah, sure.
And
about the character,
the puppeteer,
Big Bird,
character, Big Bird. And guess what? The lines were around the blocks. Now ours sold out for the majority of it, you know, for the Immortalists at that venue, but also like the lines for the Big Bird were just like blockbusters, right? And it was just like, that's interesting. is there like a big bird of science? Somebody that like has a built-in audience, but also it provides like a meaningful story and biography or something that we would actually want to tell, that we can invest ourselves in.
Like, is there a science guy?
Is there a science guy of some kind? And then it just struck me. I was just like, Bill Nye the Science Guy. Like, is that guy even still alive? Like,
right.
I remember watching him on KERA when I was a kid.
Sure, yeah.
I'd be like cross-legged on the floor, looking up, just seeing this like exploration of science in this fun and engaging way, and visually interesting way. I mean, they were the creators of that show, who I've since come to know very well, are incredible storytellers and media makers.
Yeah, I mean, he was throwing TVs off rooftops and doing like outrageous things to get your attention.
Yeah, get your attention. But I guess how gravity works. Like
right.
when you're a kid, you pay attention, and
sure.
you're actually delivering some incredibly important information and an appreciation for what science is, which is kind of the biggest thing that I think we're trying to communicate, to our population, is just not just like, okay, you don't have to memorize the periodic table. That's not the importance of science. The importance of science is to understand why it's important and how it works.
Yeah.
Like if you can communicate that, like we will have a better world. And not all of our problems come from this, but like a lot of them do. People's inability to understand and have a conversation about climate change is deeply rooted in the lack of appreciation for how science works to begin with.
And the curiosity that the scientific method encourages, right? Is like you have a hypothesis, you test it, you make adjustments based on your findings. Science teaches a type of like curiosity and improvisation that is important no matter what you do.
Yeah, you nailed it. And so we reached out to Bill. Turns out he was alive. The year was 2014, and he had just like logged on to Twitter.
Oh wow!
Okay. Like, okay, he's alive because he's found his way to a Twitter.
And he was in between. He'd had his show. But he was quitting his show. Basically.
Well, his show stopped in the 90s. All those shows. Did you ever watch it in middle school?
I didn't. I didn't really become aware of him until I think your movie, and then he's obviously gone on to have like a Netflix series, right? And things like that.
All that stuff. And so, he had finished his kids show in the 90s, and he'd kind of done a few like on and off shows, but he's just trying to have a career in media. I mean, he's an actor first and foremost. He has scientific training. He's just trying to be the science guy as a career. By 2014, we found him. He hadn't yet done the Netflix show, and we were just like, hey, here's the deal. Jason and I, we are science filmmakers. You're a scientist. We grew up watching you. Like, let us try to make something with you. And so it was a little bit of confusion what we meant, because you probably experienced this. People who you want to make a film about don't really know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah, right. Well, they don't see the end game for that.
Yeah, they don't see the end game. They don't know the process. They're like, okay, so you're talking about like a one-day interview. Like, what are you talking about? And so we had to, is a process of education to get Bill to realize like, oh, Jason and David, these guys keep showing up and filming different things. And like now they're in my house. Why are they in my house? Like, what's going on here? And eventually we got him on board with the idea, which like, this is a deep and intimate look in your life to figure out who you are.
Right.
What makes you tick, and your new challenge of communicating science to adults. Like, that's kind of what the film should be about.
Well, that's really interesting, because so much of documentary directing is about access and about getting somebody's rights, like, especially at this point in my career, so much of my time is spent thinking about access and getting shopping agreements signed and things like that.
Anyway, so what were we talking about? Bill? Oh yeah, so this guy is Seth Gordon. So Seth Gordon's an amazing filmmaker.
Amazing filmmaker. He made King of Kong, and then he went on to do Horrible Bosses.
That's right, yeah. Four Christmases, which is still somehow my favorite Christmas movie, probably because of the divorce of my own family. It's like about a Christmas movie about divorce.
That's right. Oh yeah, because both parents are divorced. So they
had to go to four different Christmases.
So
Seth did that, and incredible work, I think.
So wait, how do you get connected with Seth? Because at that time he's a big deal coming off of King of Kong. What's that relationship?
Two things. One, he was working with a former professor of mine, Jamie Meltzer. I was a producer and the cinematographer for a film called True Conviction, which is a Texas-based film about these wrongfully convicted men in Dallas.
Okay. And Jamie Metzler is the director.
He's the director. And I'm the producer and cinematographer.
Can I just dork out with you for a second?
Please.
Jamie Metzler's film, Off the Charts, The Song Poem Story, is one of my favorite documentaries ever made. Like,
you should do this walk with Jamie.
I would absolutely love to do a walk like this with Jamie. That movie, off the charts, the song poem story,
That's amazing.
was a film I think that played on PBS, right? It didn't get like a super wide release, but
Yeah.
it is this film about the ads that are in the back of music magazines that say, do you want to be a songwriter? Send us your song and $100 and professional musicians will turn your lyrics into a song. And it's one of those perfect movies for me that is about a frivolous topic that you think like, how could this possibly...
Why is somebody making a movie about this?
Exactly. And
Until you watch it.
Until you watch it. And then he finds these characters who have these really rich, complicated backstories.
God damn it, Tony.
Hey, Winnebago man, all right. Oh, I know you. Yeah, how's it? Oh, that's right. Yes. Hey, good to see you, man. That's funny. That's another, we just passed another documentary filmmaker right there.
Lots of documentary filmmakers here in Austin. I love it.
And he shouted, God damn it, Tony, from Winnebago. That does not happen very often, by the way. That's
you set that up.
Yeah, it's amazing what $100 will get you. Anyway, so the song poem story. So he finds these characters who have made it's not fair to say a career, but they have submitted their poems to be songs multiple times and have these hopes pinned to this dream of becoming singer-songwriters. Yeah. And that dream and the way that it's executed and the way that he films it is this like beautiful meditation on what it means to like follow your dreams and be an artist and what happens if they don't work out, and becomes this like really funny, sad, deep portrait. And I just absolutely loved this movie.
I mean, he shot it on 16 millimeter.
Yes,
you know.
yes.
So it's like this like retro feel to it that's hard to replace. You know?
Absolutely, yeah. Oh, so cool. Okay,
you
so
should totally talk to Jamie. I'll connect you. So,
I would love that.
Jamie and I are working on True Conviction.
And you meet him because he's a professor at Stanford.
Yeah, I mean, they only take 8 students a year. There's 2 years, so there's 16 students total, and usually about 3 professors. So he's like one of the 3 people who I'm training under at my time at Stanford. And so when I graduate, he likes my shooting style. He's like, hey, David, you're young, you're a good shooter. You want to do documentary? Help me out with this. And it didn't hurt that I was from Dallas, Texas originally. Right. So like it was a bit of a home project for me. And so even though I was living in New York, I felt an obligation to come help. And it was an incredible opportunity that Jamie was offering me. So Seth Gordon, who has always got an eye for good stories, he connects with Jamie because he wants to get the fiction rights for this same story.
Okay.
And in the meantime, help him with the documentary. So I get to know Seth through on production on that project. But then he sees The Immortalists and he loves it. He's like, guys, this is a great movie. You guys are great filmmakers. Like, this is incredible. So by the time we get Bill Nye on the phone, we're in the good graces of Seth, who is got a good eye for stories and well connected. And we say to Bill, like, hey, Seth Gordon might be interested. We say to Seth, hey, Bill might be interested. And it just so happened that we could all meet in San Francisco on a certain date. So we just meet up in a hotel bar, and we like basically have a handshake deal.
No way. Wow. How cool, man. It's amazing how like work begets work.
Yeah,
totally. Like that's such a good lesson to learn kind of over and over again in our business. Is like, people want to give work to the busy person. And the more you just keep putting yourself out there and making things, they have a way of connecting you to the right path.
Absolutely. So we make the Bill Nye film, and one interesting thing about that is we at the time had the largest Kickstarter that had ever been done. At the time people were doing Kickstarters, right? But they're for like 30,000, 50,000.
Right.
I remember somebody did $100,000 one, and I was like, what the heck? Like, what the fuck? $100,000 like from strangers? Like, how do you do that?
Right.
But then when we got Bill Nye to sign up for it, we had this crazy idea. What if we just did like most of the budget?
Wow.
Most of the budget. And the number we came up with is $650,000 as the goal, like the minimum goal. If you don't make $650,000, you lose it all. So there's no like have mom help out with $5,000 if you get that close. So we start the Kickstarter. Kickstarter themselves were saying, don't do that. This is not a good idea.
Yeah.
We were just like, we just had I had a personal conviction that there were enough people that would be willing to help for like a $35 coffee mug to make this film happen. There's enough fans. They were of age to have their credit cards already online. This is still an era when like people like my mom like were constantly afraid to put their credit card online.
Right.
So like,
so what year is this?
This is 2014, 2015.
Wow, and you're doing a Kickstarter for $650,000. This is amazing. Okay,
And then,
but I, you know, if I'm in your position,
yeah.
I think you're obviously making the right move because Bill Nye is like you're saying,
That's
a
right.
household name.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So it
and remember, the lesson from the Immortalists from our first film was that it's unsustainable not to pay yourself. So a big part of this was so that we could pay ourselves to make the movie, that we could put enough money in our pockets so that we're not having to work on other things, so we can do it quickly, but then to put the rest of the money entirely in the film, put everything on screen, you know? So we were really dedicated to like a high-end sound design, high-end animations, like everything.
Okay.
We just wanted it to be a great film.
And so are you in San Francisco still at this time?
No, I moved to New York basically like a few months after I graduated.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
I'd been in New York for 5 years at that point.
And you and your partner, Jason, right, have started your company.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we were basically, it turns out that we made $860,000. So 16,000 fans came out and said, here, let's do this. And we raised some more money from some private investments on top of that, but like it basically was like finally like a real budget that we could make a film that had, you know, a meaningful impact on the world. Could be something, and right now it's in the Library of Congress, you know, it's like,
Is it really?
yeah,
Wow.
it's, you know, has 100% score on Rotten Tomatoes, like
Incredible.
because we had the money to both pay ourselves so that we can focus on it, professionalize everything, and put the money on screen. We were able to actually do what I'd been trying to do since I saw that film in the theater. I was like actually make a movie that people want to see that has an impact.
Right. God, so wow, good for you for like realizing that goal and then going out and achieving it. That's amazing.
And then the next film, so Jason came up with the Immortalists, and then I came up with the Bill Nye, and then he came up with this next one about Stewart Brand and the Whole Earth catalog.
Yeah, cool. And what's the name of that one?
It's called We Are as Gods.
We Are as Gods.
Which is the opening line to the Whole Earth catalog, which is something that, like, you know, most people don't know it unless you're a hippie or backlander.
Right.
Or if you were like a tech CEO, like people like Steve Jobs.
Yeah,
looked up
really,
to Stewart and the Whole Earth catalog. I mean, he mentioned it in his famous commencement speech. And so we knew from early on that there probably wasn't going to be a big Kickstarter for that film.
Okay.
It had to be something else. And this is before branded funding was real popular.
Right.
But we figured, well, since CEOs in Silicon Valley know about Stewart Brand,
right,
why don't we just look there? And so we started asking around, and, you know, through our connections, we eventually came across someone named Everett Katigbach, who worked at Stripe.
Wow, what a name.
Yeah, he's an awesome guy. We have actually worked with him for years since then.
Okay. And he was like an early founder of Stripe? Or?
He was in the marketing side of Stripe, but he saw the vision for the film and he pitched it to Patrick Collison, who is the founder. He and his brother started Stripe. And you know Stripe, what Stripe is?
I know what Stripe is, and I know it because my editor and producer on Winnebago Man, Malcolm Pollinger, was based in San Francisco for a long time, and he and his business partner, Mo, I can't remember how to pronounce Mo's last name, but they started a company called Even Odd, and they made all of these really amazing branded documentaries for Lyft, and they got, I think, like early funding from Stripe to do a lot of this work, and they were making like really cool, really sort of avant-garde style documentaries with support from some people at Stripe. So
nice. So that comes to the same thing. The Stripe has their own Stripe Films platform within Stripe Press.
Okay.
We made the pitch. Patrick saw the idea behind it and funded it. So we raised quite a, it was a $1.7 million budget, and they funded most of that.
That's incredible. Wow. Okay, and so then that film goes on to play at South by?
We have a great premiere at South by. Oh wait, no we didn't. The pandemic. So in March 2020
is when it comes out.
Is when it comes out.
Oh no.
And as you may recall, South by was the first real major festival to shut down.
Oh,
we were totally thwarted.
I not only recall that, that is for me the defining moment of That's the start of COVID. We were standing in our production office and watching a press conference live when they canceled South by. And I remember leaving work that day and we were all kind of like, well, I guess we'll just work from home for a couple weeks.
Yeah,
and we'll
that's how it started. Isn't
regroup.
It? Yeah.
And then, you know, what,
and then
2 years later.
3 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was wearing masks in grocery stores until 2024. Like
Wow.
I took it all very seriously, and you know, I had 2 kids, you know, through it, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's like
We had a little kid. Our daughter Poppy, who's now 6,
That's a great name.
was born. Thank you. Was born in December of 2019, and so basically, March of 2020 was like just the end of like my paternity leave. Essentially, like we'd been wearing sweatpants for months, and then we just kind of kept wearing sweatpants in the house for another couple of years.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So wait a minute. Let's stop here for a sec and talk about your kids. How old are your kids? You mentioned you have 2.
Lucia Alvarado is just turned 5 years old. So she was born like basically the pandemic hit, and my wife and I were like, let's have a kid. like literally, it was just like, well, by the time they announced like a 3-month stop, you know, I didn't listen to a lot of podcasts about this, and I was just like, I don't think this thing's gonna end in 3 months. Like,
Right.
I think we're taking a break. So we just decided in a very practical way, like, let's just let's just try to have a kid, and let's start by a house because the housing market was like going to shit in New York. Which is good for buyers.
Sure. I love that the pandemic like created all this opportunity and growth for you. That's really amazing.
Yeah. And then my other kid, Leo, he's just
great
turned
names.
3. We're just living our lives. You know, it's really fantastic. My wife is also a working filmmaker and produced American Pachuco with me. So
Oh wow. Okay. Yes, we got to get to American Pachuco here.
we should at some point.
Yes.
But so basically, yeah. So pandemic hits. We have kids. Get buy a house in Brooklyn, and then kind of like I'm just, you know, we took advantage of that sort of dip in the world economy, but also it gave me some extra time to try new things. So Jason and I decided to turn We Are As Gods into a podcast. So we sold to Audible Originals an 8-hour-long series on Stewart Brand.
Amazing.
And so we were able to sit at home and just like podcast. And
Incredible.
Yeah.
So you make the feature documentary and raise quite a bit of money to make it.
Yeah.
And then once that comes out, how do you repurpose that into a podcast?
Well, so because we had shot so much, like there's so much verite, because his project isn't just in the past. I mean, he's doing this project where he's trying to resurrect woolly mammoths.
Oh, wow.
So he and George Church, this very big, important scientist at Harvard, like we took them to Siberia to collect mammoth DNA. And so like, there's like all these scenes like going around the world with Stewart Brand on his crazy new science and technology adventures. He's working with Jeff Bezos on this thing called the Clock of the Long Now.
Whoa.
Here in Texas, there's this clock that's supposed to operate for 10,000 years.
Oh, I've heard of this. Yeah.
So we went to go film inside the clock, which is literally the size of a mountain. It's like buried in a mountain.
You got to be making a film about that.
Yeah, maybe. We've been talking about it.
That's an incredible name. Yeah, the Clock of the Long Now.
Long Now. And so, you know, we're like, oh, we have all this footage of like all these crazy things we did with them. Not to mention all the interviews with people that didn't make the cut. A 90-minute film, you can really only do so much.
Right.
You don't want to turn it into a giant list of things that happened.
Yeah.
But a podcast, you have a lot more flexibility. So we made a very cinematic sounding podcast. Our same sound design team that did, you know, like a top-notch sound design for our film did the exact same level of work for 8 hours of content on this podcast.
Incredible. Man, good for you. So you make that a job during the pandemic that you can do from home that people are wanting because they have a lot of free time and able to listen to podcasts.
Exactly. Yeah, podcasts. Suddenly everybody had a podcast when you wanted to join it.
Right. I don't know anything about that.
And then on top of that, so we get that done, and then we're like, oh, it's 2022. Maybe we can release our film. Greenwich Entertainment made an offer to run a theatrical. We couldn't really afford to do it right. So here we are in 2022. NFTs now are a popular thing.
Oh, yeah.
So we do a Whole Earth Catalog NFT campaign.
Wow.
Raise about $200,000 to go and promote the theatrical. Of course, then we get hit by Delta, the Delta strain came out,
no.
I believe. And you know, the theaters didn't do quite so well. But this is all to say, like, I just always, when I'm talking to young filmmakers, just trying to get them to think about ways to raise money, to think about where the money is right now,
Right.
and race towards that, whatever that is.
Wow, that is great advice. That's so smart. I'm inspired by your business acumen.
Well,
So-
slow going. I mean, it's like mostly built out of mistakes.
Well, that's how anything good gets made, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you finish the film about Stewart Brand, you make the podcast. How do you get to American Pachuco?
So in 2022, I'm reflecting on how I got to this point in my career. I've directed 3 feature documentaries. I've directed for TV, like shows for Nova, done different things, produced True Conviction. I'm just like, wow, I've like, looking back, I was like, I've done so much. Like, how did I get here to this point? And that memory of that time when I met Luis came kind of flooding back. Oh yeah, like I met Luis, and like, that's the guy who made La Bamba, and like, that was like an early touch point for me when I was like, oh my God, like, there was a Latino who has made an incredible career.
Right.
It meant so much to me. And so I did what every good documentary filmmaker does. I just Googled Luis Valdez documentary, right?
Right.
And sure enough, nobody's ever done it. So I reach out to him. I try to explain who I am. I try to explain why I do science and technology stories, but I'm reaching out to him now.
Yeah.
And he gives me an audience, basically. I think a little suspicious at first, because he tells me that he gets a lot of these pitches and usually says no. So
Oh, interesting.
I just gave him my pitch.
Uh-huh. And what was it about your pitch that finally convinced him if he's said no multiple times?
Well, I pitched to him as basically it's not just a look at him as an artist, but it's a look at America. This question of belonging within America.
Yeah.
And when you think about a Latino, a Mexican American, a Chicano, typically the things that come to mind are like Mexican. This is a different country. This is a foreigner is I think what typically most people think. But when you actually study the history of a Latino and the Chicano, most of us discover something we didn't realize, which is our deep connection to the indigenous roots of this continent.
Okay.
So California, for example. California, what is California? California is a state in the United States. What is the history of it? Well, it was entirely indigenous people until the Spanish came and bringing Filipinos and other folks from other places and started to colonize it, turning it into Spain, then becoming Mexico, and then France gets involved, and then America comes in and takes it over. What you have is the true nature of the Chicano, which is somebody whose bloodline and culture are deeply connected to the indigenous people who have been just conquered over and over again by European forces. And so what it is to be Mexican and Mexican American is actually to be part of what it is to be American. And so that's something that flips this whole question of belonging around. Like when I was growing up in white suburban Texas, I felt like I didn't belong. And certainly my dad, who's just looks like a straight Mexican, he's from Mexico, broken English, here he is in white America. Like, we just kind of felt like, why do you feel like you don't belong? Why do you feel like you're the foreigner? When it's actually the historical and cultural reality of what these lands are it's completely opposite. And so, that if you watch the film, you see a lot of that. And that's actually why I like cigars. I mean, cigars, are seen as this like machismo, sort of like dude bro thing, but actually like this is the purest form of tobacco, which is only from America. And this is what the indigenous people gave even to Columbus when he first arrived, and then he took it back to Europe, and it became what you see here. It bastardized into cigarettes and the tobacco industry, like pure capitalism and everything. But like, this is basically what the Mayans would smoke. I mean, they're not precisely this, but they would roll up tobacco leaves and smoke them.
Like a version of this.
It's a very, very near version of this. And the smell of the tobacco leaf hasn't changed in all these years. So when you're smelling, it's like what the people were smelling when even Columbus arrived.
Wow.
And so when you start to think of America in this new lens of like, oh, like the Mexicans aren't these foreign invaders. I mean, these are the people that were here first.
Right. I love that. And you brought up this idea when we scheduled this walk, largely because Luis Valdez in your film is consistently seen smoking a cigar in just about every piece of archival footage there is. I mean, he has a cigar in his hand at all times.
Are you going to show clips of the film?
No,
Okay.
we don't normally. I guess we could.
It's up to you.
Yeah. This would be a nice moment to do so.
Yeah, and he's constantly smoking cigars. He like smoked cigars with Che. He played baseball with Castro. Like he like went to Cuba and like really tried to understand what they were doing and really picked up the cigar, habit there.
That's awesome.
And and like basically all the archival from the 60s and 70s, the dude's pounding cigars.
He really is.
He's cut back, thankfully. It's not healthy.
I did notice that now in his golden years, during your interview process, he was not smoking a cigar.
That's right.
And I did read that you interviewed him for something like 24 hours.
That's right. So he can talk.
Yeah.
This guy can talk.
Well,
and
he's known as a playwright, a storyteller.
he's an orator.
Yeah.
And I'm not even saying that he's wasting any words. I'll ask him, what did you have for breakfast? And he'll be like, well, David, the year was 1965, and Dolores Huerta walked in with a sundry look on her face. And and then they'll go through this whole thing, and I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? It's incredible. It's interesting. It's so well spoken.
Yeah.
But then at the end of it, he'll say something like, and that's why this morning I had the best eggs of my life. It was exactly like that day. And I'm like, whoa, like, why do you just say that? And so in my early interviews with him, I tried to stop him. I was like, hey, stop. Like, we don't have, we don't have 6 hours to do this. Like, let's get to the part where you answer the question.
Right.
And because I typically try to contain people. I'm not trying to just film like hundreds of hours for no reason.
Sure.
It's a waste of everybody's time and typically isn't going to give you the results you want.
Right.
But I learned early on with Luis, like in order to get to that amazing answer, he had to go on that sort of spoken journey to get there.
Yeah.
And so, I was like, oh man, trying to film the trailer, that was my first lesson. I tried to interview him for 2 hours. It just wasn't enough for anything. And I was trying to fight him on it. And then the second time I was like, okay, I got him. What I'm going to do is I'm going to book him for 2 days.
Yeah.
Like 8 hours a day so he can go home and go to sleep. And 16 hours or so, like, it turned out to be like 10 hours. We'll be able to get his whole life story. And by the end of the second day, we were in like the late 60s.
Wow. So you're still just at the very beginning.
Yeah. Still at the very beginning. So then I book another interview. I come back a year later and I do the remainder of it in 3 days of constant shooting. And it turns out to be something like 24 hours of an interview.
That's
which, again,
incredible.
I would not normally allow, but it made sense with him because as you see in the film, I mean, he's such a great speaker. Everything he says is interesting and well delivered.
Yeah.
And it just took a long time to get there.
Right.
His siblings are major parts of the film, and they're just as eloquent, but they can get there quicker. So, did like 2 or 3 hour interviews with them, and it's just, I don't know, it was a pleasure.
It's a beautiful movie, and I noticed how many foundations are involved. I mean, it's a ITVS film for American Masters. With funding from the Ford Foundation, the Better Angels Society.
Yep.
There's like a Latino broadcasting group. And that's like half of them. So how talk to me about the funding. How did you piece this together?
Just like with the Bill Nye film, we had an early instinct that the fans were going to be the best way to fund that. With Stewart Brand, we felt like sort of corporate executives in charge with money will be willing to fund that. Early on, from the beginning of this film, I felt strongly that it's grants. I mean, it's like we had trouble explaining what this was to HBO and Netflix. Like, they didn't quite get it. Yeah. And so when I went to PBS, they got it right away. I mean, the person who's in charge of American Masters, Michael Cantor, like, knew it, Teatro Campesino very well. Like had interned with them at some point in his career. So he was like, oh my God, yeah, why isn't there not a Luis Valdez documentary? Right. And so, I think PBS is a good example of an institution that's actually trying to create content to try to identify what audiences want and to deliver them something of high value to that audience in a way that like Netflix is not quite trying to do. Netflix is more of in my view, the attention economy, which is perfectly valid for media makers in the media space who are making entertainment. Sure. But PBS has this extra mission, which is like, oh, let's give something good to people who really want and need something, a story told that normally wouldn't get told.
Yeah. Well, and also it's creating culture and it's preserving history, and it's got a, like you said, sort of a broader mission.
Exactly. So and the other kinds of people who would see such a thing is that the Better Angels, the Ford Foundation, the National Endowment for Humanities, California Humanities. These are the institutions that are looking for stories that are worth telling for those reasons.
Yeah.
So we just as soon as we had our trailer, we just hit the road trying to pitch it exactly to those companies.
Beautiful. So you're here, you're premiering the film. You're premiering it here. It premiered at Sundance and it won the Audience Award.
Yeah. So here I am telling, I'm usually telling science and technology stories, right? It's easier to be a little bit more distant from those, but this one felt very personal to me in a way that I wasn't used to telling. It's about identity, vulnerability, about being an American, what that means.
Sure.
When you come from a different place and have a different experience than the mainstream. And so, when I'm in the edit room, like there's scenes in the film that still to this day, like I start to tear up, and I'm just so connected to see the feelings that are being expressed. And it's hard to know that will be communicated to a broader audience, right? Like I knew that the Chicano and Latino communities would get it, but what about everybody else?
Right.
And so when we showed it at Sundance, they showed it in one of the day one films, and I'm looking around in the audience, and people are full on tears streaming down their face, tears of sadness, tears of joy at the end, laughter, thunderous applause, standing ovation at the end. It just was unbelievable that such a story that felt so small and personal to me could be so broadly well received. What you were saying earlier about all of universal humanity can be seen, and the more of an outlier you get. And I just think there's something about the American experience was captured in Luis's story and the way that we told it that people connected with.
I also think the timing was really interesting because that was at Sundance this year. We were there filming episodes for our show. And everybody was talking about the ice raids, and that was constant. It was every conversation we had that was on people's minds. And so for your movie to come out and be the celebration of Chicano culture and
a sense of belonging. I mean, what are the ice raids except for them saying that you don't belong here?
Right.
I see you, you look brown, you don't talk like me, show me your papers.
Right.
That is the exact opposite of the sense of belonging. That, by the way, America was founded on the principle that that anybody from anywhere can be here.
Right.
And so it's just, to me, it was a very special and important time to have it, and we've since not only did we win the U.S. Audience Award, we won the Festival Favorite Award, which is across even fiction and series and things.
Incredible.
So it was I was blown away by it. And
that's amazing. Well, I'm sure Luis is thrilled with the movie.
Yes, he liked it. I didn't show it to him until maybe a couple of weeks before the Sundance premiere.
Yeah.
So you never know. He's a great director. So as a director, showing a film about a director to the director, it's I counted the ways in my head that they can go wrong. He could hate this, he could hate that, he could hate that, but he loved it. So
that's beautiful.
I mean, we don't really, there's even we were pretty tough on Bill in some points of that film and stuff, and Luis is a genuinely good guy, and he's got a little bit of pride, and we put some of that in there and stuff. But there wasn't much to hate.
Can I tell you my favorite moment from the movie?
Please, sure.
It's when he said, "When you go to the root, that's where there is the most juice."
Yeah.
And I think he was saying that about his brother. And in the documentary, his relationship to his brother is a central theme in a conflict in his life, because his brother tried so hard to assimilate in all the sort of standard ways, where he became a scientist and a very well-respected one. He made a lot of money. He married a white woman, bought a sports car, lived the sort of traditional American dream, and was miserable. And all that fell apart, got divorced, and Luis, his younger brother, went the other way and was involved in these revolutionary movements and was putting on experimental theater that was challenging the status quo, and they were estranged for a long time. And then when they get back together, That's one of the things that Luis says that he tells his brother is you go back to the root.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I love that. Like as a creative person, that really resonated with me. Like,
Yeah, who are you as an artist, and like how do you celebrate that, not hide it? Like make that a part of the broader American conversation, but also maintain what makes you and your contribution to it special.
Yeah.
That's the universal side of this.
I love it.
That I think there hasn't been a lot of Latino stories that do quite that in quite that way, and I think. Especially in the Latino audiences, we've gone on to continue to win audience awards at these Latinos festivals, and we're here at an amazing festival today.
Cine Las Americas.
Yes,
Yep.
yeah, and I've been thrilled for the journey so far.
That's awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for giving us time today.
Yeah, my pleasure.
It's hot. We are sitting in the shade here on our driveway. I'm at the end of my cigar. How are you doing on yours?
Pretty close to the end.
Oh man.
Right.
Yes, beautiful. All right, well, let's do what we call our lightning round here at the very end. You've already covered this, but let me just ask you again so that we have it very succinctly. What is the documentary that was your gateway drug that made you think, I want to make documentaries?
A Time for Burning. It was a film in 1963 or so, Academy Award-winning film about a Nebraska minister who has to try to racially integrate his church. Incredible film that woke me up to the power of documentary storytelling, that it could be just as good as a fiction film. I had no idea until I saw that film.
So good. What is your advice to young filmmakers?
My advice is, well, there's the director brain and the producer brain. So for the director brain, I would say, yeah, make something that's authentically interesting to you. It is so hard to make a documentary. Nobody's gonna really ask you to do it. Nobody's gonna really even want you to do it. You have to take all that and like still find out how to tell the story and make it amazing. And that takes blood, sweat, and tears. The creative energy that's invested in it is like nothing else that I know of. Anybody who makes a feature-length documentary film, you need to buy them a drink at a bar because they've been through a lot. They've been through a lot, and the creative side of that has a big tax on you. But if you have the will to do it because you care about the subject, then you can get it done. So, but then on your producer brain side, I would say you have to have a certain level of financial literacy in your personal life. You need to know how to save money, invest money, not be in debt, get out of your student loan debt like I have. You have to know how to raise money, get investment, know what kind of funding your particular film needs. Like don't try to take a film that needs to be funded by fans and have it funded by grants. It's just never gonna work. So understanding that side of things is super important. Be professionalizing yourself to some degree. I mean, like, it's all good fun, but also you have to like make a timeline for yourself, a schedule. Like we have to get to this certain cut by this certain date, no exceptions allowed. And who cares that there's not like a boss telling you to do that? You're the boss, so you should come up with those dates. Otherwise, this thing's gonna drag on forever.
Yeah.
Too many people. I mean, some films have to be done in 10 years. I get that, but the vast majority of films that take 10 years were because like, it's just hard to just constantly be trying to hit markers and get it out on time. And I think a lot of people get discouraged that, it's not that I think things for any qualitative reasons should take less than 10 years. It's just that like some of those films that take 10 years, they don't even go on to make another film because that was way too hard. Yeah. And then your career is not going to continue if you can't make the next film. So I just say it from speaking only to the producer side of your brain, like, well, you just have to keep yourself on task and on time and under budget, and then you can make your great art and go on to make the next one.
Spoken like a true producer. That's amazing. And then, so the last one, what is the thing that you can't stop thinking about right now? And let's make it not film related.
So because of Luis, so I smoke in cigars, throughout my adult life. But I keep thinking about cigars now. I don't know. There's something about the nature of them, like we were talking about earlier, like the how connected they are to the indigenous people that were here, and not cigars specifically, but tobacco itself. And if you think about the Americas as pre-Columbian and post-Columbian, what the Americas have given the world is kind of the beginning of modernity. You think about things like Italian food, right? Think about what? You think about tomatoes and like peppers and things like that. Well, tomatoes come from the Americas. Like the Italians did not have pizza before Columbus came to America because they didn't have tomatoes. They didn't have spices like peppers, capsicum, pepper, anywhere on the planet. You think about Indian food, right? That came from the Americas. And tobacco came from the Americas. Potatoes, you think about Irish potatoes, and that is a staple for European diet. That came from the Americas. So before the Europeans came to America, it was a rather different and more impoverished planet. And here we are sitting on this continent that has given so much to the whole planet. People don't really think about that history.
Yeah.
And its meaningfulness to how the modern world is. And so I don't know, for some reason I've been thinking about that.
I love that. Yeah, that's great. Especially because I think what's my thought here? Because it's sort of complicated, but like with the film that you just made, there's a way that you could look at that as being almost like anti-American in a sense, because he had such a hard time. He was not welcomed. Mm-hmm. He was fighting against a lot of prejudice.
Yeah.
And there's a temptation to only see that side of America, I think, right now. Mm-hmm. And what you just said is, I think, what people who are sort of see the rosier picture of America tend to think, which is like, actually, it's this incredible experiment in democracy, and it's created all these wonderful things that have influenced the world and for the better. And I love that you've come through making a film that is critical and still have a deep appreciation.
Yeah, I mean, the film is a celebration of America. I mean, you know, you can't do it without knowing. I mean, the whole side of the indigenous Chicano is one of conquest and horror and genocide. So like, we can't not pay attention to that. We don't want to look away from that.
Right.
But here we are in America. I think we have to accept that and get people who aren't accepting that to do so.
Yeah.
But then also recognize that here we are. I mean, here we are in the modern world as it is. Like, what do we do going forward? How do we respect the realities of the histories that brought us all here and try to make a better world and a better democracy? And that comes through, I think, the stories told right.
Yeah. Amen. Stories told right. That's that could be an alternate title for your episode.
There you go.
David, this has been great, man. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Next time on Doc Walks, meet Dutch oil painter, animator, and film director Hisko Hulsing. Hisko made a splash in the documentary world with the brilliant animations from Brett Morgan's Kurt Cobain doc, Montage of Heck. He followed that up with incredible work on the Amazon series Undone, starring Bob Odenkirk and Rosa Salazar. Just last month, he premiered his latest film at the world's leading animation film festival, Annecy, over in France. That film, Dance Macabre, caused quite a stir, kicked up a lot of controversy and a lot of conversation, and we're going to get into all of that next time with Hisko Hulsing on Doc Walks. Doc Walks is created, produced, and edited by my friend Ben Steinbauer of The Bear.
Hello. And my friend Keith Maitland of Go Valley. With help from our co-producer Dayton Thompson and editing by Riley Church. Follow us at Doc Walks Pod on YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn.